This is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards. The book is A Word of Advice, and the author is Carol Urena. Carol, welcome to this program.
Thank you. How are you? Good morning.
I'm good, thank you. So why this book for you?
Well, this book for me, I got the idea because I have written a few other books, but they're more love poems, and I thought, why not try something more inspirational, more inspiring, even though love is very inspirational and very inspiring, but for those who, might be looking for something else, something more like, something to get them going, not just poems about love.
When did you start writing?
Well, many years ago, actually. Even when I was in elementary school, I used to write short songs. When I got to high school, poems. And then I stopped for many, many years. And then I fell in love and started writing love poetry just as just to get it on paper, because it wasn't for anyone that I was with or anything like that, and I embarked on it, once again.
When you fell in love, how did that influence your writing?
It influenced it greatly because it gave me a reason to write again. It gave me motivation. It gave me a venue to do something that I enjoyed so much in the past. That now, is something I love to do.
You mentioned that we should all work at being the best version of ourselves. How and why?
Only because it makes the world a better place. It makes us, a better person. It helps us to even feel, I think, better about ourselves and, better about the world around us.
And what is the golden rule?
The golden rule, isn't it to treat others the way that you would like to be treated?
We're chatting with Carol Urena. Her book is A Word of Advice. How important is it to always believe in yourself?
It is very important to believe in yourself. There were times that I doubted that, that I can do a whole book of poems, and it was that retelling myself, just do it, you can, and if you believe, the more you believe, the more you're able.
You also said too that never be afraid to tread in unknown waters. Why do you think, Carol, so many people are afraid to do that?
I think it's sometimes the fear of failure. Nobody likes to fail, but I think failure is actually a part of success, I don't know anyone who has never failed, I think it can make us stronger to fail.
There are 75 short poems in this book, A Word of Advice. How did you narrow it down and pick these 75?
I didn't narrow it down and pick 75. It was kind of the goal that I set for myself with the previous books, to make it feel like a book, that it had to be at least 75 poems for me,
You are a Bible enthusiast. Have you always been a Bible enthusiast?
I read the Bible from beginning to end, I believe, at the age of 18. And I've read it, a number of times. I haven't read it again recently, but it has touched me. It has changed me. It is what has made me really the core of the person that I am.
We're chatting with Carol Urena. Her book is A Word of Advice. And how, being a Bible enthusiast, how did that influence your writing?
With this book in particular, because A Word of Advice is really, what I'm trying to put in the book is, how I try to live my life and how I feel, others should live theirs as well. I think that when we live a positive life, it only rewards us. because, you know, I do believe in God and the Bible and the words of the Bible. You know, God sees that, you know. Even when maybe we're not thinking positive or feeling positive, just our acts alone, you know, like God sees that. And I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and speaking of acts, too, you mentioned in the notes here that sometimes the smallest miracles are what we need to make a positive shift in our lives. And a lot of times we don't recognize them, right?
And that's right. We don't recognize them, or we take them for granted. Just the fact that, you know, we have the sun every morning. You know, that you know that there are so many beautiful things in nature. You know, that sometimes, you know, we see them so frequently that we just, you know, we just don't even see them for the beauty that they carry. You know, and you know, I think so many things carry beauty. And, you know, sometimes we forget to look or, you know, to really acknowledge it or, you know, like I said, take them for granted.
We're chatting with Carol Urena here on Speaking of Writers. Her book is A Word of Advice. You can get this book, by the way, at writersrepublic.com, also Amazon.com, and at barnesandnoble.com as well. And you have on the Writers Republic site, you have a few books up there.
I do, yes. It's a total of 5 books.
Over how many years?
Now, I believe it's been about 4 years. Yeah, I think it's been about 4 years, or going on 4 years.
So, Carol, you like to write just a little bit.
I think a lot. So it helps me, you know, to just, you know, like get it down on paper. I would advise that for any overthinker, you know, like put it down on paper. You never know.
So tell me the art of crafting a poem and how you do it. Is it an idea comes to your head that you write it down, and then how do you just put it together? Does it flow for you from there?
It's an idea that comes to my head. Sometimes I might look at other poems or other, you know, quotes and see what I think about it, see what I feel about it, write it down, and then usually after I've written all the poems, you know, after I've gotten through the 75 poems, you know, I'll revise them. I'll look at them again, and you know, and it takes some drafting, you know, not big changes. A lot of the poems are still the original, you know, the original thought, and some, you know, I've changed, not much, you know, a little bit at a time.
What's been the reaction of your family and friends to your poems and to your books?
I guess, you know, they're inspired and they're proud of me, you know. It is quite a number of books, you know. I tried not to tell everyone, you know, how many books, right. And then when they realized how many books, they were like, "Oh wow, we didn't know it was so many," you know. So yes, I've gifted some of them, you know. So yeah, I think when I do that, it's even more impacting.
Who are some of the poets that inspire you now and have inspired you?
I guess Shakespeare mostly. When in high school, I thought Hemingway was, you know, really awesome. Yeah. And, you know, really Shakespeare, you know, his sonnets, the King James Version of the Bible, which is just written like, you know, sheer poetry to me. So, yeah, mostly Shakespeare.
Is there a Shakespeare sonnet, one or two, that you go back to over and over again?
Not really. I had won a Shakespeare competition in high school, and I was given his book of sonnets, and I was like, wow, this is just, you know, I fell in love with it. But yeah, that's really how I even realized that it wasn't just playwriting, you know, that there was actual, you know, like poetry as well. So
the book is A Word of Advice. The author is Carol Urena. So what would you like readers to take away from this book?
From this book, as opposed to the love poems, is maybe to have that aha moment, like, or, you know, I never thought of it that way, or, you know, this makes a lot of sense. Maybe this is something that I should do. You know, to take the book, you know, as a word of advice, and, you know, take that advice and, you know, apply it to life. So
I'm guessing you're working on another book now.
No, I'm taking a break. I I did start, and then I was like, it's a lot of books. Let me just, just take a break, focus on the books that I have written, on doing, interviews like this one and whatever else comes.
All right. Well, the book is A Word of Advice, one of a few from Carol Urena that you can get at writersrepublic.com, also Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com as well. Carol, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And this is Speaking of Writers.